All right, today we're going to rewind the clock way back to the world before 1492. We're going to explore the Americas, this incredibly vast and complex place, right on the brink of a change that would alter, well, everything.
You've heard the phrase, right? The New World. That's what European explorers called it when they landed. And that term, it kind of paints a picture, doesn't it? An empty, wild, untouched land just waiting to be discovered.
But here's the thing, for the millions of people already living there, it was anything but new. This was their home, an ancient land, absolutely humming, with thousands of different cultures, languages, and histories that went back not just hundreds, but thousands of years.
So, let's just get right into it. This whole discovery narrative, it's not really the full story. A better word for what happened in 1492 is a collision. A massive, violent collision of two worlds that had been developing on their own, completely separate, for more than 10,000 years. And when Christopher Columbus first arrived, his first impressions of the Arawak people he met, they sounded almost perfect. He wrote in his journals about how gentle and innocent they were, always smiling, super generous.
But that initial impression, it got twisted fast. It became a justification for unbelievable brutality. We know this because of guys like Bartolomé de las Casas, a Spanish priest who was there. He wrote about the horror he saw with his own eyes, how the hunt for gold and land just unleashed this wave of terror that basically wiped out the entire native population of the Caribbean in just one generation.
So to really grasp the sheer scale of this tragedy, we have to understand what was there before. We have to appreciate just how sophisticated the Americas were. And we're not starting with small villages, oh no. We're starting with massive cities. Okay, look at this number, 30,000. What is that? Well, that was the population of a city called Cahokia, right near modern-day St. Louis at its absolute peak.
Now, to put that number, 30,000, into perspective, Cahokia was bigger than London at the same time. Think about that. In fact, it was so big that no city north of Mexico would get that large again until after the American Revolution. This place was a massive, thriving metropolis.
And this was a seriously complex place. Right at its center was this massive, 10-story-high earthwork called Monk's Mound. Cahokia was the hub of a trade network that stretched for 1,000 miles. We're not talking about some simple village here. This was a political and cultural powerhouse. And Cahokia wasn't a one-off, not at all. If you go out to the desert southwest, you find the ancestral Puebloans. These people built incredible multi-story cities right into the cliffs, engineered these sophisticated irrigation systems in the desert, and built their whole society around the rhythms of the sun and the moon. Just amazing.
But here's a crucial point. Not everyone built huge, centralized cities like Cahokia. The Americas were incredibly diverse. I mean, look at the Lenape people in the eastern woodlands. Their society was totally different. Smaller communities, spread out, all connected by family ties. Decisions were made by consensus, and power often passed down through the mother's side. It was matrilineal. It was a completely different way of organizing society, but it was just as successful, just as resilient.
Okay, so you've got this entire hemisphere just buzzing with all these different ancient, dynamic cultures. And then, 1492, everything changes. A single voyage that was really just trying to find a shortcut to Asia ends up accidentally rewriting the history of the entire planet. Now, you might be thinking, wait, didn't the Vikings get there first? And yeah, they did. Norse sailors landed around the year 1000, but their little colony didn't last. So what made the 1490s different? Well, it was kind of a perfect storm. You had new sailing tech, a huge demand for spices and silks from Asia, and powerful new kingdoms like Spain, who were flush with victory from the Reconquista and ready to make a name for themselves. And this is the key. This encounter wasn't just about people meeting. It kicked off something historians call the Columbian Exchange. And this is so much bigger than just Columbus. It's about the massive, world-changing swap of plants, animals, diseases, people, and ideas that happened because these two worlds finally, violently collided. And right from the start, this exchange was fueled by conquest, and it led to a catastrophe on a scale that is, honestly, it's hard to even wrap your head around. Let's take the Aztec Empire as a case study. Their capital, Tenochtitlan, was this incredible city on a lake, home to 250,000 people. So how on earth did Hernán Cortés and just 600 Spaniards bring it down? Well, the short answer is they didn't do it by themselves. Cortés was smart. He exploited a lot of the political tensions, getting thousands of other native groups who hated the Aztecs to fight with him. But even that wasn't the real secret weapon.
No, the deadliest weapon the Europeans brought with them wasn't steel. It wasn't gunpowder. It was invisible. It was something they didn't even know they were carrying, but it would prove to be more devastating than any army.
95%. Let that sink in for a second. That's the estimated percentage, 95% of the entire native population of the Americas that died in just the first 130 years after contact. So why? What happened? It comes down to biology. For 10,000 years, the people of the Americas had been cut off from the diseases of the Old World. Things like smallpox, measles, the flu. They had zero immunity. So when those germs arrived, they just ripped through the population. It was the single greatest demographic catastrophe in all of human history, period. But it's wild because this story isn't just about loss and destruction. It's also about a transformation, a complete remaking of the planet that literally created the modern world we are all living in right now. I mean, just look at what we eat. The Columbian Exchange created a global pantry. Things like corn, potatoes, tomatoes, chocolate, all from the Americas. They went out and fueled a population explosion around the world. Seriously, can you imagine Italian food without the tomato? Or Irish history without the potato? That all started here. And going the other way, you had sugar, wheat, and animals like horses and pigs coming to the Americas, and they would completely change everything. The result was this brand new hybrid world. New cultures were born from the mixing of peoples. Entire ways of life were invented overnight. Think about the great horse cultures of the Plains Indians. That wouldn't have been possible without the Spanish horse. For better and, absolutely, for worse, the world was now connected. The global age had begun. It's really that simple. After 1492, the two separate halves of the planet became one. That 10,000-year experiment in separate human development, it was over. The world we live in today is the direct result of that moment, of that collision. So, yeah, we live in the world that the Columbian Exchange built. A world connected by food, culture, trade, everything. But looking back at this history, it forces us to ask a really tough question. We know what was gained, but what was the true cost of creating this modern world? And maybe more importantly, who was forced to pay that price?